Good morning. Welcome to Gimpy's History Corner, named after my two grandsons, Alice and Archie, who are standing here next to their granny, great-grandmother, 99 years old, and my son Andy at Connor Prairie this past summer. When she visits, we have a wheelchair that she gets around in, does a pretty good job for 99. Hanging in there. Go Granny. Okay. The title of this video number 56 is The Black Hand. And it comes from this book by Stefan Talty. Black Hand was not a formal organization, but it was a term used to describe a style of extortion practiced by Italian immigrants from southern Italy. They used this extortion over in Italy, and when they came to America, they continued it. It emerged in 1903 in New York City with the Capiello case, where a contractor received a threatening letter signed Mano Nera, Black Hand, demanding $1,000 or his home would be dynamited. Wow. Letters featured ominous symbols like daggers, skulls, black handprint. They threatened kidnapping, arson, and murder. Like I said, this practice occurred in southern Italy during this period, and these immigrants came to America and brought the practice. The victims were usually Italian immigrants who had done well. In other words, they had some money. And cities in large Italian populations like New York City, Boston, Chicago, and New Orleans. So, the Black Hand decided they didn't want to work for a living. They wanted to take other people's money. It was kind of part of the anarchist movement at that time, where anarchists did not believe in formal government and formal standards of society, and they did not like the wealthy class or government officials. So this was their method of getting money from the people they did not like. But this lasted till about 1915, and the influence of the Black Hand waned with the rise of more organized crime known as the Cosa Nostra or Mafia, also from Italy, southern Italy, and Sicily. And this book is mostly about a famous Italian New York City detective named Joseph Petrosino. He was dubbed the Sherlock Holmes, the Italian Sherlock Holmes is what he was called in New York City. That's how this ties into the previous video. Joseph Petrosino was known as the Italian Sherlock Holmes, and he arrested quite a few members of the Black Hand. And I'll show you a picture of him. This is a picture of Joseph as a police officer, and down below is the Italian squad. He's standing at the top. He is right here. And all these were Italian policemen who the New York Police Department thought could better handle dealing with the Italian population. The Italian squad worked on Black Hand cases and made arrests. And typically what they would do is send them back to Italy or Sicily, which I'm not sure was a good idea, because they would just continue their anarchist ways over there. How did the victims react to the letters? Well, that's part of the problem. Fear of retaliation. Many just went ahead and paid because they had the money. They were contractors. They were shopkeepers. They were performers. So they had some extra money, and the Black Hand people knew it, and that's why they were targeted. They didn't target poor immigrants. They knew they didn't have any money to give. These Italian immigrants, even though they had some money, were distrustful of law enforcement. And that came from Italy. In Italy, the law enforcement is almost just like the mafia. I mean, they're corrupt. And of course, that happened also here in America when the mafia got going. They had judges and policemen in their pocket by giving them money. Omerta was the Italian word for a code of silence. So you just didn't go screaming to the police. You handled it. And community pressure by neighbors who advise you to handle it privately. Don't go to the police. Who were targeted? As I said, successful immigrants, shopkeepers, contractors, performers. The most famous was an opera singer by the name of Caruso, who got a letter. He said, you need to give us $2,000. And he did. He paid it up. In Chicago, 90% of the Italian immigrants were targeted. So Chicago, 90% of the Italian immigrants weren't wealthy. So they maybe got letters saying, give me $10 or something like that. And some even hired people they thought were in the Black Hand or the mafia later to be their protection, which later led to the protection racket run by the mafia here in America, where shopkeepers would pay the mafia so much a month to protect their shop from being blown up or set afire. And that's been around forever. I don't know if it still happens or not. The protection racket probably does in some form, but it's a way of making money in large cities, whether it's with the sanitation department, like in the movie The Sopranos, or just shopkeepers in a downtown business district. Okay, who were the ones who were arrested? Well, they were typically Italian born in Italy and then immigrated over here, or were first generation Italian American. Some of the more famous ones was Antonio Mirabito, who ran the Black Hand in Boston. He was arrested. Ignazio Saletta, or Lupo the Wolf, he was called. He was in Manhattan. And Giuseppe Morello also was in New York City. Those were three of the more famous arrests. Petrosino got this bright idea, and I'm not sure why he did it, but he decided he needed to go to Sicily to track down where these people were coming from. I'm not sure, and he went by himself with no protection. And these were the results. Death to Petrosino. Here's another flyer with the actual Black Hand and a picture of him after he'd been killed. He went on a secret mission, which apparently too many people knew about, to root out the origins of the Black Hand. And he was murdered in Sicily. Incredible. Now, he's a hero in New York City, of course. Has a big grave in the Queens and statues. They had a huge parade for him at his funeral back in New York City. But I don't know what he hoped to accomplish by going to Sicily by himself. It kind of sounded like a James Bond movie or something, but the results were not as positive as James Bond movies. Okay, so that's the Black Hand, early 1900s. Large cities with Italian immigrants developed into what's the modern day mafia is, with protection rackets. And of course, the modern mafia gets into drugs and smuggling and prostitution, and all the evils of our society are run by the mafia. Okay, the Black Hand. Beware of the Black Hand. If you get a letter, don't be silent. Go to the police. Have a good day.